Welcome back to the Teed Up Podcast. Today I'm very lucky to have my coach, Gordon Stallard, join me on this episode. Coach Stallard has been coaching for 23 years now. He's played 2 years in college and is now coaching at Brazier Middle College. Is there anything else the listeners should know?
That's it. I grew up in the basketball world. Both of my parents are retired coaches. I knew when I was 8 years old I was going to be a high school basketball coach. That was always my goal.
It's neat. So before we get into the NBA, I have a few general questions that I feel like give a good background for like anyone that I have on. So if you say something like outlandish, there could be a reason for it. So first question, who or what got you into basketball?
I grew up in a gym. Those of you who know Brazier see Bo running around our gym. That's exactly how I grew up. I grew up at Chapman High School. My dad was a coach at Chapman High School for 25 years, and when I was 5, I was running around that gym. So basketball has always been a part of my life. I have 2 brothers, and we all played it and loved it. And we were all sports, but basketball was what we were really the most of it was there.
Yeah, I grew up on football a good bit, and I always wanted to play, but Mom was like, "Oh, you can play flag football." So I played a year, and I hated it and just despised it. Yeah. I got so bored I even tried soccer.
It's funny, my mom made us play junior high football to make friends because we were going to a new junior high. I was like, no, I think I want those friends. I can't wait till December to make friends in basketball season.
Yeah, that's exactly where I made most of mine today. So my next question is, what is your favorite thing about basketball, or your favorite things?
I think it's a great game. It's a team-oriented, and it's just, I think basketball is a game that, like most sports, it rewards hard work. You just, some people are born 6'5". You grow to be 6'5", you can do this. But, if you want to be able to shoot a basketball, hard work will let you be a good shooter. And if you just play hard and hustle, you can be a defender. There's some things, everybody can play it. You can find a place to play. Now, not everybody's going to be an NBA player, but everybody can find a skill and do it.
Yeah, that's the one thing people don't understand. It's oh, you're 6'5", how are you not playing basketball? I'm like, or how are you not in the NBA? You're 6'5". When you see people who don't know anything about basketball, there's a percentage thing. If you're 7 feet tall, you have a 12% chance of making the NBA.
Right.
And it just greatly drops after that. I think if you're 6 feet tall, you have less than a 1% chance of being in the league.
Oh yeah. I'd probably say yeah. Probably have a better chance of getting hit by lightning if you're less than 6 foot than being in the league.
Yeah.
If you did numbers on that. Yeah, and I think people don't understand it. We were talking the other day with somebody, even now the 6'7", 6'8" guys in the NBA are having a rough spot. Because you got to be able to shoot at 6'8".
You got to be able to shoot now.
Yeah, you can't be a Charles Barkley rebounder now at 6'4". You got to be 6'8", and you be able to shoot the corner 3.
Yeah. And definitely the big guys now are significantly smaller too. They're 6'7", this Victor Wembanyama kid. He's tall, but he's not big. When you think about Olajuwon wasn't really that big, but he was still big. Shaq was obviously big.
Right.
Well,
that's what I remember. Some of those guys like Scott Pollard and some of those other big guys said they were going to be in the NBA as long as Shaq was in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because everybody needed somebody to guard them. And that's the back to the basket players are not there anymore. David Robinson.
I definitely think that whole lane violation thing, especially on offense, you can only spend 5 or 3 seconds. It just ruins that.
Post players think that. Post players.
That's fair. All right, my next question, close to my last one for this formal questions, is who is your favorite NBA player of all time?
My favorite player of all time is John Stockton. I grew up. I'm 45. I grew up in I remember the late 90s NBA, the 90s, the Stockton Malone days. My first NBA memories are probably the Celtics Lakers 3:30 NBA on NBC games. Those were fun. I got a brother who's 3 years older than me, and he was a big Bird fan. So we grew up there watching that. But then, as I got older, Stockton, I just loved the way he played. Small guy played, and he wasn't a great shooter, but he just played basketball. He was my all-time player. Yeah,
definitely a good pick. For me, it's just growing up in the era I'm in now, especially since I started watching basketball and I was already 12. You watch what you see now, and I kind of like to see that you can learn more the farther you go back. So it's gotten to the point now where I like watching older games better than newer ones, just because it's I know who these guys are.
Yeah.
But some of those guys back then I don't know, and also it's drastically different from what I'm seeing now. versus
yeah.
like back then. And you can just talk to people that like were around there to watch the games, and it's just, oh, this guy was so much crazier in person, and I'm like, I just believe it.
Yeah. Well, it's different. It's like, and I don't think you can ever compare generations. Like they say, Jordan didn't shoot enough to play in this league. Well, if Jordan grew up now, his skills would translate to what is in the NBA.
Yeah, he would
you know
have
what I'm
to
saying?
shoot
Like
more now.
He would shoot more. They've said that Larry Bird would be better in today's NBA. Now, how can one of the all-time greats be better? It's hard to imagine, but you think that he would shoot it more. The game was more free. He wasn't getting hammered by 7-footers every time he went to the rim.
Hell, he might have played 20 years.
Oh yeah, he might. I mean, he was Dirk before Dirk. If you think about like skill set.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that take. And my last, just like formal question like this is, who is your favorite NBA player now? Like as in today, like actively playing, or
Today
like the last
now,
10 years?
I think Luka's the most entertaining player in the league right now. Just because he doesn't. He gets to his spots. He makes. It's kind of like I was saying with Stockton. He's not a great shooter.
Yeah.
But then you watch him and he has 38 and 12, and you're like, how did he do that? And I told somebody the other day, he looks like a substitute science teacher, and he's giving your team 40. I like the kid from Oklahoma City, Josh Giddey. I like his game. He's a good one to watch. But I think the best player, my favorite player right now is probably Luka. If he's on, I'm gonna give it a watch.
Yeah, my favorite player is very biased, but I'd say if I had to do unbiased, it would probably end up being like you said, Luka, just because it's not like that he's throwing up like 83s to score that much,
Right.
which there's nothing wrong with that, but just like I like seeing people shoot mid-range
Right.
shots. Like that's my favorite shot is a mid-range shot.
I
don't make many of them.
I ask a lot of students sometimes that who's the most entertaining player in the league. Like if they're the 8 o'clock Eastern time zone for us, if they're on TNT or ESPN, who are you going to watch? And a lot of times they get that Luka.
I feel like now we can kind of throw in John Morant in there too, though.
Right, and
Because
yeah,
in terms of like entertaining,
he's in that.
it's hard not to be.
I get that name a lot. He's entertaining. You're going to watch him if he's on. I like Tatum. I like the way he plays. He's kind of like that old school. Like he can score on every level.
Yeah,
and it's fun to watch him too.
Very fair. All right, so now getting into the NBA, I know that everyone's getting tired of the Lakers, but it wouldn't be a true podcast if we
Right.
don't get to make fun of them. That's
Yeah.
what I live for. So what I think went wrong in LA is that they just didn't put any shooters around LeBron.
Right.
And they just didn't make any moves in the offseason. Like the main struggle last season was shooting the ball, and what do you think someone would do if you have millions of dollars to spend? You get someone who can shoot, but no, let's get Kendrick Nunn.
Right.
And just I've done some reading, and I believe this because Anthony Davis said it. So if a player is going to come out with stuff like this, he said they don't hold each other accountable. Like they just keep screwing up, and they don't do anything directly to fix it. So more so, what do you think about how they're struggling right now?
Obviously we don't see him practice. We don't see him there. But I've told every player that ever played for me, if this is a coach-led team, we're only going to go as far as I can take us. If it's a player-led team, we're going to go a whole lot farther. And that's kind of the accountability thing. If that's true, that's it. I'm not anti-LeBron, and I know a lot of people who grew up my era are still Jordan's better. LeBron's an unbelievable talent and unbelievable. It's a generational person. I think he's better with, like you said, he needs shooters. In the NBA, a lot of times we get caught on names and not fit. I was really, as a Utah fan, I was big on the Westbrook to Utah. And everybody's like, why do you want him? I was like, it would be good with who we have around him.
Yeah.
But I think they need shooters. I don't know their practice thing and everything. Just hard to watch. They got too many guys who are ball-dominant players.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. I remember the memes coming out. It's LeBron and Russ, and I can't remember, might have been another player, all fighting over the 10th rebound for the triple-double they need.
Yeah, that's it. Somebody said they're not that because they put the stats in the arenas now. Everybody knows it. Like when we were growing up, or even in the late '90s, that wasn't rebounds and assists wasn't on the boards. It was just maybe who scored the most points.
Yeah, and I believe they played last week against the Kings, and feels like, oh, Russ is playing. He's playing decent off the bench. He had 21 points and 11 assists. And then I did some reading, and this guy called him a fourth grader pretty much because he gets a tech, then he turns over the ball, and then he turns over the ball again, and then commits an intentional foul on the fast break. They make the free throws, and they get the ball back. So their 12-point lead was gone in a matter of a minute and a half.
Well, that kind of speaks up to that accountability thing that the players aren't holding them to, or like to holding anybody to. You know, you think about it, that happens on any team. If somebody's not mentally strong enough to go challenge that player, and Westbrook's an unbelievable talent, but like you're gonna have to rein him in at some point, or you're gonna have this kind of struggles all year.
Yeah, and
it's easy to say from here because if I was playing with Russ, I'd be like, "You go, man.
Yeah, so
you just do it. You just do
he's been in the league so long, and you know he's a veteran, and his name's very well known.
I think if one person can hold him accountable, it would be LeBron.
Yeah, but I think he's just kind of taking this season sitting back.
Yeah,
because you know he's hurt, not really playing as much. So I mean, I don't think they're gonna be good in the next 5 years. I mean, their draft picks are probably gonna all trade away, knowing.
Yeah,
them.
That's the one thing is like, as much as we watch the players and I'm watch the coaches, those front office guys drive the league. You know, those are the ones that create it.
Yeah, they create the problems or they fix them.
Right.
Half the time they end up doing both.
Both, yeah, in the same move.
So next, I want to keep it in LA and go with the Clippers. As of last I checked, they're 9-7, and you know everybody was saying, "Oh, Kawhi's back. We're gonna be, you know, top 5, top 3." I don't even have him in like top 10. I think.
Did he come back last night?
I believe he did, but I'm not positive.
I thought I saw something that he was, but
he might have played a game. But just in general, with Kawhi sitting, I think the main issue on their team is they have the right players. It's just Paul George isn't playing aggressive enough. He's 21st in the league for shot attempts, which isn't really good if he's like your main offensive like centerpiece. Is like he needs to score 30, and he just doesn't. You can't shoot the ball. I mean, you can't score if you don't shoot the ball.
Right.
So I just think like you can't bank on Kawhi coming back from this big injury and expect him to be, oh, we have Spurs Kawhi back.
Right.
You can't just like bank on that. Like same thing with like Clay. It's like, oh, Clay's back. Clay played like a bench player last season.
He did, and it's I think the coming back from an injury is twofold. You got to have like the physical wellness, but then you got to have the mental mental hurdle of jumping over. Like, okay, I'm gonna be fine. My knee's gonna hold up, or my elbow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think so. Like when they come back, Kawhi's not gonna come back and be automatically as fluid and athletic and as he always is. He's gonna take a little bit of mental preparation to get through there.
Yeah, and I just think of this too, is that it's one thing to like, you know, come back from the injury, you go to rehab, you go to practice and stuff. But if you've been out for like that long of a time, like with Clay and Kawhi, you can't like going back into your first game has to be like you have to be nervous about that because you can prepare all you want for practice, but you can't prepare for an NBA game if you haven't played one in
and it's
so many years.
The speed of it, the physical nature of the game. I'm looking at their roster now, and they got some good players. I just think that they don't have that really big, like Paul George is how old is he now?
I think he's been in the league for a good bit now.
12
but I think
years. 12 years in the league.
Ending like the end of his peak play.
I think he's out of his prime. Yeah, he's a heck of a player. But I think with both of them, obviously, there's going to be a whole lot harder to guard.
Yeah.
But they have to go together. Like those two are their alpha. They're closers. Kind of like what your Bulls have. Like they have DeRozan and Living. Like if one of them are out, the other one's nowhere near as effective.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been seeing. And this is like the last big team we've talked about only because, I mean, it's not good, but it's impressive. But the Warriors have lost 8 straight home games now, or not home games, road games. Steph had 50 against the Suns, and they still lost by 11.
Booker had 49 last night. You see that?
Yeah.
You see who beat him? Jazz beat him by 1.
But I don't know, like, how they go from, you win the finals. Now, I do think they made some let some players go in the offseason that they should have kept. But you can't lose to the Magic. You can't lose to the Hornets.
Right.
You can't, you're the defending champions. You can't get beat by these teams in bad. Poole is, way too inconsistent. Like I said earlier, Clay's just an average player. I mean, still has 4 rings, but he was hurt, and he's average now. And Draymond is just Draymond. I honestly think he punched the life out of this team when he sent Poole in the next year.
I think that obviously those things happen on teams, but the way it happened with the 2 people that it happened with, that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow when you're in there. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a leader punching somebody for not playing hard, or a bench player pushing a leader because he wants his time. It was 2 people who you need in your team to make them go, not playing together, and that's a tough thing for your team.
Yeah, I think it would have not been as bad as a situation had everyone not figured out about it literally in less than a day. If it wasn't spread all over the place, it probably wouldn't have been as bad.
Yeah. I mean, it came out now that Jordan punched Kerr in '90s or whenever it was. It came out after that, and I mean, I was there then. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was the 24-hour thing. I'm looking at the Warriors.
Even then, to some extent, it would have not been as bad as now, just because it was way more physical back then.
Mm-hmm.
There's always, every time I go on Instagram, I see this clip every once in a while of Kareem just absolutely rocking this guy. I see it twice a week.
Yeah.
And that was I don't think he got a tech. I think they just, got a foul.
Play on,
play on.
Maybe shot a free throw. Hey, give the guy a free throw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to those teams when I growing up, everybody had that one guy who would do that. But it was a different time then, and that was their skill, and that was what they do.
And lastly, for the Warriors, 2020, you second round pick, you're looking for a big, you draft James Wiseman, and he gets hurt, which is I guess unfortunate because Chet was their first round pick for OKC, right? Their first pick, he got hurt. But James Wiseman is playing horrible. They sent him down to the G League. Not like you're gonna play a couple games down there. It's you're in the G League now. Yeah. I said this last year, but not officially. I said that if Wiseman doesn't play good this year, you need to get him out as soon as you can and see what you can get for him and find someone that can rebound. Because in the finals still, I'm surprised they came away with as many boards as they did. Kevin Looney, I think, played every game.
Mm-hmm.
And had good minutes, good rebounds. And the Warriors really blew their second round pick on a power forward when they really needed a center the whole time.
Yeah. They you're 100% correct on the Wiseman thing. We know the NBA's windows are small, and the Warriors have kept theirs open longer than we all envisioned. But those guys, you need to win right now. You can. I don't know. You can't get anybody if you can get something for him. It would not be a bad move because you're not worried about 5 years.
Yeah.
Down the road, or if you're the Warriors, you're trying to win another one right now.
And I think they went wrong with looking for a stretch when you literally have Curry, you have Clay.
Yeah, the floor's already spaced enough.
You don't need more shooters, and especially at the center position, you don't need your big man drawn all the way out there. You need him down on the block.
Would Steven Adams work with the Warriors?
Honestly, I feel like he works with any team.
I think so too. Yeah, when I said that, I was he could work anywhere.
He's all
his
around.
Skill set is
he's if any team's hey, we'll trade you Steven Adams, they're not going to say no,
right?
Unless they want something extremely crazy
right.
for it.
Yeah, yeah. If
he
he comes to your
agent,
team tomorrow, you're happy.
Yeah, you're perfectly fine with that. Now, moving away from teams, I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but I think the best player in the league is Luka. About 91% of Luka's points come off just him taking the ball unassisted. And he averages about 34.3 points per game on 60.9% shooting. And I'm gonna keep it honest. I don't think the Mavs would win more than 2 games this season if Luka didn't play. His record isn't as good as I think he wants it to be. But I think he's still by far the most valuable player. And I think what MVP really means is that it's not your team record. It's the most valuable player. If you were a free agent today, every team would offer you a high contract. That's what I think most valuable player means.
Yes. I agree. Like that's what it is. Like how value. Like if the without him, they're not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're not even in contention, I don't think.
Yeah, it's literally like that big of an impact. Like a couple years ago, maybe like a season or two, I remember watching NBA on TNT, and Shaq made a good point about how, Curry was like one of the candidates for MVP, even though like they didn't make the playoffs, they didn't do that good.
Yeah.
But he still like had extremely good numbers. And it's not that their team record sucked. It's he is the most valuable player in the league right now. Like
because if they
anybody
don't
wants
have him, their team is 3-60 or whatever. Yeah.
Like when you look at like the list and like live tracker updates and stuff, you see teams with records that are okay, but you see players that if this guy came to my team, I would give like an arm and a leg for him.
Right. Well, I think I look at this like if Luka, whatever team Luka went to next year, they're thinking conference finals.
Yeah.
In any division, you know what I'm saying? Like this, like LeBron 10 years ago, when he was took Cleveland to the finals with a bunch of quasi NBA players. Wherever he went, when he did his decision, it was automatically going to be the NBA favorite.
Yeah.
And that's I don't think Luka's going to make his team the favorite, but wherever he goes next year will be. But there's a couple like that, I think. Like, who's the second one? If Embiid goes anywhere, are they obviously a finals team?
No.
No.
Not well. Maybe last season, but this season, like, sure, like he had like a 59-point game, like 7 blocks, I think, earlier this
I watched
week,
that
which
game
is
live. It was against
insane.
the Suns. Right.
But he hasn't been playing. I feel like he hasn't been playing as good this year as he has last year, and I don't know if that's because Harden's playing better. I just don't know. I mean,
how about Tatum? If Tatum goes to the Knicks, are they in the finals? Are they thinking finals?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I would give them like probably.
But they also the Knicks is a bad example because they got a good core.
The thing is though, is like when we think about stuff like this, like you can't overthink it, but at the same time it's like Tatum, they're gonna have to give up something for
right. Who do they give up? I mean, would you give up Barrett for Tatum? 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna just want one player.
No.
They're gonna want like 3 and a couple picks.
Yeah.
Like same thing with that whole KD trade a while ago. I think it was KD or Kyrie or a big trade like that to the Nets.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we'll give you KD, but we want 4 of your active players.
Right.
And we want 3 draft picks. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me.
Can't do that.
Like, nobody is going to accept that trade, no matter how good KD is, unless he averages 60
Well,
points a game.
if you do that, the only thing that shows you is your front office wants to win this year.
Yeah.
And as a fan base, it gets you excited, but then you're like, 3 years down the road when we're in the lottery.
Yeah, and you're going to have no one. KD probably inevitably moves on.
I think wherever Giannis goes, they're a finals contender.
Yes. Same thing with Jokic.
Yeah.
Because, like, any team, if you can have a center run a point
and
you have a good point.
Those two are better examples because nobody else is like them.
And they're both
and
MVP
they can fit on
too.
any roster right now.
Yeah, I think that's another, like, added layer to MVP is that you can fit on any team you get put on.
Right.
Like, put them on the Pelicans.
Right.
Like, okay, so now we have to guard Jokic, and now we have to guard Zion when he plays.
Right. Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, and
people forget how good Brandon Ingram are. He's good.
He's good. I don't know what he's doing with his hair now, but looks a little.
I don't have many hair options.
Yeah, getting on a little bit on the edge of looking homeless for Ingram right now. But my next big thing is I've been thinking about this for a while. I wanted to give like a good response, but has it gotten too easy to score in the NBA?
I think it's the way the game's played now. Like, it's so spacing. And, like, people, it's such a three-point heavy shooting game, they'll give you the layup. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Draymond gets by his man, instead of trying to collapse and help and kick out, they'd rather Draymond take the 2 than Clay in the corner.
Because they know he's around.
So it might be easier to score. I mean, the shooting's such a bigger part of the game now. We always had the debate with me and my brothers and some other guys who grew up shooters in the 90s. And, like, I mean, if you took 8 threes a game, people were calling you a volume shooter. And now these guys are taking 8 a quarter. teams didn't take 12, 13 threes a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's I think it's easier because of the spacing and the way the game is played. Does that make sense? Does that translate? Like, I think there's, first of all, there are people who say the NBA doesn't play defense, doesn't understand how good the offensive players are. Like, we talk all the time. You see Luka take a 17-foot fadeaway and hit it, and then we're like, oh, no defense.
And then you watch
that's the shot you're giving up.
You watch a courtside angle of, like, I think he has, like, a game, like, put the dagger in.
Yeah.
Like, extremely contested shot. He just made it.
They're taking a 25-foot fadeaway, hand in their face, and they're hit it. And, like, no, it's just really good offense. I think the players, there's such a better emphasis on, or more emphasis on offense and scoring now, that's what they're trained to do and work to do.
Yeah.
Like Curry making 500 shots in a row or whatever. Like, Jordan didn't do that.
He didn't.
He was physical. He was working on his strength and his conditioning because he was getting beat up. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think the way the game is played and the way the game has evolved, which I love, makes the scores and the flow a little easier to
and just going back to, like, I'm going to list off a couple players in their games they recently had, and it just kind of, like, wraps up. Like, Tatum had 43 points in a 10-rebound game against Detroit last week. Embiid had 59 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists, 7-block game against Utah a week ago. Darius Garland had a 51-point game with 6 assists and 2 steals against Minnesota last week. And you're just looking at those players, like, sure, Embiid's like a big guy, but I don't think Embiid's working more in the weight room than he is shooting.
No. I think there's there's more of emphasis on offense. It's kind of like when you go to baseball, to change the topic a little bit. Everybody's throwing 100 miles an hour now, but they're training to throw velocity instead of movement. They're training to score. And I would love to know the numbers. Like Booker had 49 last night, and it wasn't even like the lead. You know what I'm saying? Like, back when Jordan would have a 45-point night, it'd be on the bottom line of ESPN. It'd be that leading story on SportsCenter because teams were scoring 80 a game.
Yeah.
But now, like, you named a couple guys, and you have to be an NBA fan to know who some of these guys are.
Yeah.
Who scored like 45, 50. Like
Tatum's
4 to 3 and 10. Just, I mean, I missed it. You know, I was like, wow, that was a good night. I just think it's just where they are now and the way.
It's just like so common that, you know, you see a 60-point game, like, whoa, but you see like a 50-point game, you're kind of, and then 40 and 30. Like 30 is really common now.
Right.
Like, there's tons of guys in the league that average 30 points.
The marketing kid from the Jazz had 38 last night, and it's just not.
Yeah, and I would have never found out about that unless you told me.
It's probably wasn't even the top 10 of scoring performances in the league last night. I would be interested in some research on like 40-point games in the 95-96 NBA season as opposed to the 21-22 season.
Yeah, and even then, like, back to what you said earlier, like, the style of play has changed. The pace is quicker because people would rather take that three than, you know, take more time to go down and get a layup.
Well, that's the way we play. I mean, the way we play here at Brazier.
And I think, like, ultimately, like, the refs have a good decision in that too. Like, if you're going to get fouled or get called for a foul every time, like, if you're a bad free throw shooter, for example, you may not want to drive every time.
Right.
Like, if you can take the three, but if you're good at shooting threes but you suck at free throws, take the three.
Right. Like, there's somebody else involved. Like, if I drive to the rim and there's a little bit of contact, I'm got to rely on somebody to make the call and get the call right.
Yeah.
If I'm out there and I'm wide open and I take the three, nobody's guarding me, I can, okay.
Like,
it's between me and my training. I don't have to rely on somebody else to make the call.
Yeah, you go to the rim, you get laid out and no foul. You miss the layup, but, you know, could have had open three.
And if you're open, I mean, you're shooting over a 6'7" defender over than a 6'11" 7-footer.
Yeah. And another thing is, like, back to pace, like, a lot of the things we see in the NBA is, like, one-on-one scoring. Like, average possession times are down, like, significantly because, you know, turnovers are still, like, pretty high. But at the same time, everyone's taking the ball one-off-one. Like, for example, for Luka, like, he scores most of his team points, and most of his points come from just him. Like, nobody assists him the ball. Nobody gets an assist from that. So instead of swinging the ball, looking for a better shot, which I think is funny because when you think about, like, they post on, like, ESPN or SportsCenter, it's like, oh, this team, you know, swung the ball. Like, there was a college team recently that got posted on, like, SportsCenter, and they had a possession where they just passed the ball and that like not a dribble was taken, and it looks good and it's impressive. And that's just because that's the way it should be, but we don't see it very often now.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the guys are talented, and in the NBA, if you make that many passes, the defense, I mean, there might be a turnover there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like in the college game, they're help side. Like I watch the clips, I've seen those guys, and I mean, we teach it, but like they're all collapsing to the paint. They're all trying to keep everybody out of the paint, so the swing's easier.
Yeah.
In the NBA game, you're out there contesting those shooters. The swing's not easier. So the ball has to go side to side through either a paint touch on the penetration. That has to be it because nobody throws it to the post anymore. But that's where that like the defense in the league is like they're out there. So every now and then you'll see a drive and somehow kick it to the corner of the wing and swing all back around in the NBA. But I think the size of the players and the way they play, they're not crowding the middle, so the swings are harder.
Yeah, and I remember watching a Bulls-Sixers game last year, and their main goal was to get Vucevic out to the three-point line on Embiid, and Embiid just Vuce played up so much that the three wouldn't be there, so he got in for it too.
Right, they run them off the line, and NBA's now just been to a matchup. It's just they'll just ball screen you until they get the matchup they want.
Yeah,
that's what the Mavs do. They just you'll screen, then we'll switch it, then we'll switch it till we get whoever we know's on Luka, then we'll go.
Yeah. And then another thing with this like whole scoring thing is like back to the refs. It's when the offense gets like you shoot free throws for literally the defense like barely touching them or breathing on them. Like you get a lot of points like James Harden, like he's still a very good offense player. I'm not saying he's not. But the amount of free throws he shoots contributes very highly to the amount of points he gets. Like if he has a 30-point game, I think there was an example. He had like a 35-point game, but he shot like 14 free throws and made like 11.
Yeah.
So that's a third of his points pretty much came off of free throws.
And Harden's not attacking the glass. He's not driving and getting hit around the rim. You know, he's not doing that. I think it just, I mean, that's the way the game's gone. I mean, it's a whole lot better than it was when he was in Houston. He was getting all those. I mean, they had to change the rule for the rip for him because he was getting all those. He's crafty. Offensive players have kind of figured out how to get the calls too.
Yeah.
They kind of dribble into you. They do that hostage dribble where they get you behind you. Some of that stuff's in there, but, I mean, the game's different, and they call it different. They guard it different. I think they did a good job taking I don't know what they call it now, the fast break foul, and they give you the 2 shots.
Yeah.
I like that rule.
I do too, because
it got to be aggravating where anybody get a breakaway, they would just grab them.
Yeah. What do you think about the carry rule? Like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I don't think it changes the game that much. I just think it's like a small, like, annoying thing.
Yeah. I just think, like, it's so many things are – I think the game is so fast and the players are so good, and their moves, their one-on-one, their skills, their footwork is so good. Like, it's hard to call it. Like, when they thought about the 2 steps whenever we were doing that in the layups, like, that was a bunch of 6'3" guys.
Yeah.
On the breakaway. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when they made that rule, and now you got Giannis picks the ball up at half court, takes 2 steps and dunks it. Like it's the game, and the guys are so much bigger. It's just the carry rule. I think the players' athleticism has really changed a lot and put a lot more pressure on the referees.
Yeah, I just think that rule out of everything you could have addressed, you decide to address a very minor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, sure, like, you carry, but carrying takes, like, more time than dribble.
Right.
So, if anything, it's slowing down the game, and now you're taking away that.
So, in your mind, it's like the same as like saying, hey, you can't wear a red shirt on the golf course.
Yeah.
There's 0 impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like, hey, you can't wear, like, the little ninja bandanas anymore when you play.
Right, like that has 0 impact on your skill.
It does nothing. And then just going back to, we're just going to keep it on topic with the refs. So you see that Tech Tatum got the other day? He, like, commits a foul. Literally, I looked at his mouth. Didn't say a word. He might have, like, maybe said, like, a single word. But he just clapped his hands. Like, you know, like when you can do stupid foul, you're like, I'll get it next time. Instantly teched. Didn't throw the ball at the ref. Didn't even look in that guy's direction.
Yeah. I think it's inconsistently called, those tags, and it's human error. Refs are a necessary evil to the game. The only thing that I wish is, after the game they would have like media access. Like all the players and all the coaches have to sit there and talk about what went right and what went wrong. I just wish the refs, the NBA refs, I'm not talking about high school, I'm not talking about college, even college refs. Like I wish the NBA refs would have to go to the media and explain what happened on that technical foul.
Yeah, because I think if they explain that, it could probably take away like a good pressure from all.
It would.
That.
It would help both sides.
Would
it would give them make a little more transparency in their profession, to make them look a little more like, well, I've told him earlier not to do. Like most techs are cumulative effects. It's not the one thing.
Yeah.
So like that's where I think that I would love to see that refs have some media. They have to speak to the media after the games.
Yeah, and another thing I just like think of is that one thing that they may do, some remember, some don't, is that when you play, in order to be in the NBA, you have to play basketball for a very long time. You put in countless hours. So you're going to feel some type of way about the game. You're going to be very involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when something doesn't go your way, you're going to be mad. You're going to be frustrated. So it's literally human to show emotion whenever you're passionate about something. And I think they need to remember that these players are extremely passionate about what they're doing.
Right, and I've asked referees before after a game, like, or during, if a player of mine got technical, was he mad at you or was he mad at himself? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what happens. And, like, sometimes sometimes I've seen those guys go crazy on a referee.
Yeah, and that's well-deserved tech.
Yeah, but then the funny thing is like sometimes they'll give you a little leeway there. You know, like some refs will like, okay, you can get that out of your system. But then some of them will bang you like they did Tatum the other night. You know, it's just – and that's why I wish they could be like – if that referee came on there and be like, okay, in 2017, Tatum told me I would never be in the league again. So when I had a chance, I was going to get him. Like something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to say that because he wants to keep his job. But there's probably some of that human stuff in there too.
Yeah, and just like –
I wouldn't mind them adding a fourth ref. Because – I mean, it gives you – the game is so much faster. We was talking about the goaltending rule the other day.
Yeah.
And when that was created, it was Wilt Chamberlain was above the rim. Now everybody in the gym's above the rim.
Yeah.
So either – like if you had another set of eyes, could help out with the way the floor – and think about how the game used to be played. You're talking about the old game. Now you got to guard. You got to watch the whole half of the court.
Yeah.
So that would be another fix for me.
A couple of years probably going to be like – whole 3/4 of the court.
Right, they're going to move the line and add a fifth ref.
But I definitely think that they should like let players argue a little bit more between each other. Like if someone gets like I understand to the extent of not wanting to start a fight, like even at like high school or college levels, like you know, we see someone get dunked on. I understand like the whole like they're jumping around, like doing this to him. Like I understand that's a tech. You're getting up in this guy's face. But like there was a college player, or not college player, probably I think it was high school. Just absolutely murdered this guy underneath the rim. And he just looks at him for like a second and a half, walks away, doesn't even stand over him, just looks at him. Tech.
Yeah. I think that's the problem I have is like as a high school coach, I watched the NBA game the other night. Oubre hit a shot, hit a rebound or something, gave the too little thing, and everybody just keeps playing. And you do that Monday night, you're gonna get a tech automatically. And like you guys are seeing your heroes, your favorite players do something on NBA, and the high school and the college refs will bang a T on you for that. Yeah. See, I mean that's what like we had a big discussion this year about celebrations for football and how the high school officials are flagging everything. In the NFL, they're getting the whole crowd down to the end zone and taking a team picture.
Yeah.
I get it; it's different, but like, if you are watching the game and you sit on TV and nothing happens, I'm not saying that we should get the NBA treatment, but it's kind of hard to say, hey, don't do what everybody else in this game's doing because this guy in Dixie on Tuesday night is going to give you a technical foul.
Yeah. Even like back to the NFL thing, like I would rather them go in the end zone and do whatever celebration they're gonna do than like get up in the other team's face and like brag about it. Like,
That's the thing.
It's a way better alternative.
Right.
Like you're keeping them. Like someone scores on you, they're okay. We're going back to
Right.
the sideline. Let them do whatever they want in the end zone. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I don't like the old like tapping the head and stuff right at the guy.
Yeah.
I don't like that because that's, as a coach, that's a look at me thing. Look what I just did. As a parent and as a person, it's like, hey, just do what you're supposed to do and keep going. Like, it's exciting. Be excited, but don't be happy for yourself. Don't mock anybody else.
Yeah, and I also think like to an extent, like the whole like too little thing.
Yeah.
That's good for the game. Like if like when people do that, they're like, okay, well now I got to try a little more.
Right.
Or now like they find like another edge.
Yeah.
And it makes the game more exciting to watch. Like as a fan, like I like when players argue. Like when they don't fight, when they fight, like I like watching it too. But
right.
I'm gonna be honest. But I understand it's not good for the game.
That's
it's
why
not
you
good
watch
for
hockey.
TV.
That's why you watch hockey.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But it makes the level of intensity and competition higher between those players now.
Right.
Because now, like, sure, they're trying or not trying, but now they're, like, determined. I think it's good. I think it's good for the game because it makes the games more interesting to watch. It makes it more down the line, like, how is he going to respond to this?
Right, like, what's he going to do there? Yeah. I like it. Like, I mean, it's a challenge, and I'm sure the NBA guys will take it as a challenge and go on, or the high-level college guys. The high school kids and all that, like, that's where it gets to be like, okay, now I'm not mature enough to make this a basketball fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make this a physical fight.
Yeah, and even, like, the whole, like, Jordan, and then I took that personally thing.
Right.
Like, that's the type of stuff, like, see, like, they take this personally. Like, now they're going to go out of their way to beat you.
Or that's what, like, that was the different mindset then was like, I'm just going to work harder and beat you, and instead of I'm going to join your team, like in today's world.
Yeah, and then that's like refs in all sports in general. Like I got bored one day, and I looked up like just what it takes to be a ref. Like you have to go to school. You have to do so many years coaching this level, so many years coaching this level, and then a small percentage of you guys get let in the league. Yeah. So you've done reffing for all of these years, and you're missing all of these calls that you've probably made thousands of times. Mm-hmm. I understand human error. But when you do a job so long, I believe at one point there's just no excuse for missing a certain call over and over again or making a bad call. Or like if you're a ref for that long, like the older refs in the NBA, you've taken all of this crap. Like you should be used to it by now. Like you should expect this stuff to happen. Right. I understand like them insulting you. I understand that. That's different. But knowing how players are, how they act.
You've been in the league for 10 years, you should realize that a player's going to be upset. And you shouldn't have a quick whistle if you've been in the league for that long. I get it. I also think that's the hardest thing in sports. And I've watched it. I've watched the officiating. I've watched coaches just berate officials. And I've told people before, I was like, you would not want anybody you love to be an official because of the way they're treated.
Yeah.
And they've got the hardest job in the world. And they're the only ones who know they're going to be there at the end of the game. I think that coaches and players and everybody needs to treat them with a little more respect. I think it needs to go both ways, but like they have a reason to be there and they're in charge. And that's what frustrates. Like I heard a coach tell me one time that the referee missed 5 bad calls. I was like, well, how many times did your team throw out of bounds? You know what I'm saying? Like, or how many mistakes did you as a coach make? Did you make the wrong sub? Did you leave somebody in too long? Did you change a defense? Did you not run a set here? I think it's human error. And like you watch all of it and they'll show you the bad calls on social media, but then they won't show you when those 17 people hit the ball going out of bounds in the basketball and the referee gets that call right. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's the thing with that profession is their mistakes are so highly magnified. Yeah.
And then there's another part of it too, like whenever the refs call me for a foul or something, like, I'm going to be honest.
Never committed a foul. Carter Weldon's never committed a foul.
But also the other part of it, I think, is I get half of my like would-be blocks that are clean, they're called foul.
Right.
Like, if I could put like a camera inside my eyes myself, and then like take out some chip in my arm and put it in like your phone, and like, hey, like this is what I saw. This is what happened. And sometimes I do commit a foul, and I don't know why. And like I like the refs that will, like when they're shooting free throws, like they'll talk to you and they'll explain to you like what they saw, what you did, and then half the time it's like, oh, okay, I can see.
That's the big thing. If they can talk to you, if the official will talk to me in any sport and tell me what he saw, then I can accept it. But when they don't tell you, then that's not, they don't
like
know
they have
either.
my utmost respect. The second they explain, like they're willing to
Mm-hmm.
explain to me why they called what they called.
Because I always tell them, and you've probably heard me say, like, I'm a little biased. I think that's green ball.
Yeah.
And he'll say, well, that guy, you got to understand that they, except for a few exceptions over the years, probably don't have much of an interest in the game.
Yeah.
One time after a girls' game here, we won by a point, and after the game, the referee came back and he asked me, he said, oh, it was a good game. Who won? I thought that was a very, like, to be that involved and to not know who won blew my mind as a coach or a player. But that's how they live.
And that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today, Coach. I've never done anything like this before, and I had an amazing time. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk basketball with me.
Thanks a lot. It's a lot of fun. We talked about it a lot, but now we get to do it officially, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you.